been a minute. Happy day to you all. It's a lovely, calm day on the water. I was just looking at the surf report. And you may be thinking, what's surf got to do with this video? Well, as I was using the app, it asked to leave a review. And usually I dismiss those things, right? But I thought, in that moment, it's all about those little moments of putting in the effort, because that effort may be returned. Which then led into regrets and if onlys. Like, if only I'd put the effort there, which then becomes a bit of a regret. And then reaching a mental level. Maybe this is emotional maturity. I don't know. But a sense of gratitude for the regrets and the if onlys, and the ability to think about them without them having the emotional impact that they once had. So my question to you, have you ever thought out loud or spoken out loud? You know what, I'm thankful for the regrets that I have, and I'm thankful for all my if onlys. Because as I reflect on them, see the realization, the life lessons, or what's to be learned, I realize, that's important to me. Once the regret would lead me down the road of sorrow and self-pity. Yeah, regret, remorse, right? Would do that thing. There's a guilt. There's the guilt. There's an embarrassment. There's a shame. There's that great sense of loss. In most cases, okay, I lost out. And if that becomes the dominating force or sensation, then it drowns out, I guess, the lesson, what it's really holding, or what's encapsulated for the self to come to grips with, to learn from, really, to come to terms with. So I could say now that I've come to terms with many a thing. Okay. So I wanted to share that with you. And you may go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And this video may be the video among many that gives you that sense of relief that, yeah, you're not the only one. Many of us have gone through our struggles. But it's through those struggles that eventually brings us into the character development and evolution of a better self. It is about hanging in there and going through what may seem unnecessary. Like, why is this happening to me? What have I got to go through this? And a lot of this also comes through some of the poor souls there in the online dating world and their profiles. Very abrasive. Just stuck. They're stuck on thoughts of being hard done by. and then taking them out. They're taking them with them into a new future that will never be created, which is unfortunate. Okay. So I get to see that. So there's a thanks to them for then showing me the type of spirit that I once was. Or the way that maybe not necessarily the spirit that I once was, but what I was doing to my spirit. How about that? Because life is very much of a giving and a receiving, of a perpetual reciprocity, or just look at the laws of the universe. Okay, the Hermetic principles. It all comes under the same banner. Think of like a tree, like an old tree that bears fruit, that bears flowers. As a lovely lass said to me, with its ecosystem that surrounds that tree and nourishes all the organisms that live amongst it. Very, very true. So the self, we could look at the self as being the tree, and that everything that occurs around us in our world, in our reality, is a response to how we treat the self. So that ties into those regrets and those if-onlys. And then you can see, okay, it wasn't all about coincidence at all. It always has been how I have conducted myself. And that everything was merely a reciprocation. It was just echoing and mirroring the energy within, broadcasting. So that comes back to then the gratitude for the regrets then become an indication how I was broadcasting myself. Think about that, if you're willing. Coffee. We iron off the wetsuit. The rooster's crowing. I'll take you outside. Check out the day. There's something really special too. Let's have a look. Unfortunately, they disappeared. But over yonder, bright star, and a bright star, which I believe they were actually planets, which was very cool. The moon's over there. Sun is rising up. There's a nice little breeze. A bit of swell gently coming in the bay. And the flying crow and I, we're travelling over yonder. There's a surf break over there. Finally back in the water. You little beauty. Feels so good. Nearly a year out of the water. But bang, on the board, doing our thing. Never left. Feels great. Feels absolutely great. So sit with your regrets for a little bit. Sit with your if-onlys. And look for the gratitude. Look for the, you know what, I'm glad that happened because it signifies what I treasure. What I now know, hey, that's a valuable thing. You protect that. Learning it's not about being possessive of things, it's about being protective of that which is a source of the benefit. And it's a treasure. There's an Irish saying out there, and it means treasure of my heart. And I thought, man, that's very true. And if only, right? If only I treasured that and truly valued that. But sometimes you've got to, like I said, sometimes I think that's just part of it, right? You've got to go through the hoo-ha just to realize, what's precious and what's not precious. Let's put it that way. Yeah, look at this. This is just wonderful. It's moments like these you really treasure, that I treasure. But guess what? Been through some hoo-ha to put myself in this position. And I go through hoo-ha on the regular when you're out on the water. The weather does what it wants to do. And I appreciate that, because coming into the next relationship, or what I would like to call the resonance of reciprocity, of a congruency, of a cohesiveness, of a synergy, of a harmony, right? Of the yin to my yang. Of the difference, but of the same. That it may appear to some, when you've weathered stuff, there's people who weathered far more than I have, that they may appear to be nonchalant. But really it's just they've realised that there's no need to be overly consumed by what you don't control. And the weather has been such a great teacher to me for that. I got to go inside the boat. It's just how it is when you're out on the water in the rough seas. Can't do much than that. So with our regrets and our if-onlys, most of those have happened in time and space that no longer exists. Why be overly consumed by that? Look to find yourself in a true, sincere and genuine, authentic state of gratitude. The moment you do that, you'll take yourself into a new level of being. And then the more that you practice that, the more that type of being, that evolution of yourself, becomes more complete and will resonate and vibrate, and you will broadcast a different self without being in a task mentality. Like, oh, I've got to do this, I need to change. There will be a moment you will say that, like, there's enough of this, I need to change. But the way you're being becomes more than just a task mentality, if that makes sense. It just becomes your way of being. Yeah. May this video reach you in a very timely manner. And I just want to say thank you to you for tuning in. Be good, be great, be brilliant, be the best that you can. Do what you can with what you have to lead yourself into the places and into the experiences that you'd rather have. See ya.